My phone buzzed. It was a text. I didn't even have to look at the name to know who it was from. It was Margaret Vance, my mom. The message was short. It was direct. It hit me hard. But in a strange way, it also set me free. You're banned from Thanksgiving. Idiot. That was it. No explanation. No call. Just those words cutting me out like I was trash. I was sitting at my kitchen table finishing up some work on my laptop. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then a slow smile spread across my face. It wasn't a happy smile. It was a smile of pure, quiet resolve. I closed my laptop. The click was sharp in the silent apartment. My fingers moved quick and sure across my phone screen. I canceled every single autopay tied to my bank accounts. Every single one. The family phone plan. The water bill for their house. The internet. My dad's medical copays. My mom's credit cards. Kyle's rent, all of it gone. 3 days later, while they carved a turkey without me in a house, still lit by my money, the power went out. My phone, buzzing constantly, showed 87 missed calls. I was always the dependable one. That's what they called me. Elena is so dependable. It wasn't a compliment. It was a job description. My real job was an accountant in Denver, crunching numbers for other people. My unpaid job was being the family bank. It started small. A grocery bill here. A forgotten utility payment there. It grew slowly, like a weed taking over a garden. I remembered the first time I really felt it. Dad, Arthur Vance, had a heart scare. Nothing too serious, thankfully. But the bills piled up. He had insurance, but the copays were hefty. Mom just looked at me with those wide, sad eyes. We just can't make ends meet. Honey, she'd sighed. It's so much stress. I had just started my first real job. I had some savings, so I paid. It felt right then. It felt like love. I loved my dad. I wanted him to be okay. Then came Mom's credit cards. Not medical bills. Not emergencies. Just things. New clothes. A vacation she really needed after Dad's scare. It's just a little bit, sweetie, she'd say, almost apologetically. But her hand was already out. I'll pay you back next month. I promise. The next month would come, and the money would never appear. Instead, there'd be another plea. Another emergency. A car repair. A sudden, urgent desire for a new dining room set. My credit card, the one I had opened to build my own financial future, started to carry their burdens. I tried to talk to her once. Mom, this is getting a bit much, I'd said softly. She'd laughed. A sharp, dismissive sound. Oh, Elena, don't be so dramatic. It's just money. We're family. Then there was Kyle. Cousin Kyle Miller. He was Mom's sister's son, but he was always at our house. He was family. He was also a black hole for cash. His business ventures were legendary for failing spectacularly. The organic artisanal dog biscuit subscription box lasted 3 months. The eco-friendly bespoke smartphone cases never even got off the ground. Each time he'd be out of a job, out of money, and somehow out of a place to live, Mom would call me. Kyle needs help. Elena. Just until he gets on his feet again. His feet were apparently made of quicksand. I paid his rent. Not once. Not twice. But 3 different times. I paid his phone bill when he forgot to. I paid for his groceries when he was between jobs. I even bought him a new laptop once because his old one crashed. And how can I start a new business without a computer? I knew deep down it was wrong. I knew he was taking advantage. But Mom's voice, full of worry, always made me cave. Family helps family, she'd say, just like she did with her credit cards. It was their mantra. It was their weapon. The list went on. The family phone plan. It started with just Dad and Mom. Then Kyle got added. Then Aunt Karen because her phone was acting up. All on my account. All auto-paid by me. The water bill for their house. The internet. I lived in my own apartment paying my own bills. But somehow I was also responsible for theirs. I kept track of it all quietly. A spreadsheet on my computer growing longer and longer. A silent testament to my generosity, or perhaps my foolishness. The numbers were staggering. Tens of thousands of dollars over the years. My savings account, once a promising nest egg, was now just a shallow puddle. I tried to talk to them, not just about the money, but about the unfairness of it all. I'm feeling really stretched. I'd confessed to Mom once during one of her requests. I'm working so hard, and it feels like I'm just paying everyone else's way. She'd waved her hand, dismissing my words like flies. Oh, Elena, you're always so dramatic. It's just money. You make good money. We don't have that luxury. Dad would nod along, his eyes glued to the TV. Your mother's right. Honey, you're overreacting. My chest would ache. My words, my feelings, my exhaustion, they were all invalid. They were all overreacting. Love in my family wasn't a feeling. It was a receipt. A one-sided transaction. I gave. They took. The bill never got repaid. The love was always conditional. Always tied to what I could provide. If I questioned it, if I pushed back, the love disappeared. It was a silent sacrifice, draining me year after year until there was almost nothing left. I was 27, an accountant in Denver. But inside, I felt like a child, still begging for a scrap of real affection and always coming up short. The Thanksgiving group chat, it was always a big deal. Mom would start it weeks in advance. Recipes. Head counts. Who was bringing what? This year, I searched for it. I scrolled through my messages, then scrolled again. It wasn't there. My heart gave a little lurch. A familiar pang of unease. Had I been removed? Or had I just missed the notification? I went to the main list of chats. Nothing. I felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach. So, it was true then. Mom's text hadn't just been an angry outburst. It was an official declaration. They had truly banned me from Thanksgiving, from the family chat. It felt like being erased, like I no longer existed in their world. I took a deep breath. I decided to test the waters. I opened a new message to the family group, the old one, the general one that was used for birthdays and updates. I typed carefully, trying to sound casual, trying to hide the tremor in my fingers. Hey, am I still invited? I hit send. Then I waited. It felt like an eternity. Every minute dragged. I imagined them seeing it, reading it, discussing it. What were they saying? Were they laughing? Were they annoyed? My mind raced, creating scenarios, each one worse than the last. I hated this feeling. The feeling of being on the outside, looking in, always hoping for acceptance that never quite came. Finally, a reply. It wasn't Mom. It was Kyle. Of course. It was Kyle. His words were like a casual punch to the gut. Limited seats. Maybe next year if you chill. Limited seats. As if their sprawling dining room, usually filled with extra chairs dragged in from the garage, suddenly had no room for me. If you chill, that was their code for if you stop complaining about us taking your money. Kyle, the one whose rent I had paid, the one whose business ventures I had unwittingly funded, was telling me to chill. The hypocrisy was like a physical blow. I looked for Mom's reply. Nothing. She didn't even acknowledge my message. She didn't defend me. She didn't explain. She just stayed silent. Her silence was a roar. It screamed volumes. It told me everything I needed to know. Her text wasn't a fit of pique. It was deliberate. It was final. Then Dad Arthur? His reply was the one that truly twisted the knife. A thumbs up emoji. Just a thumbs up. He agreed with Kyle. He agreed with Mom. He agreed that I was banned. He agreed that I should chill. My own father. The man whose medical co-pays I had covered. The man I had worried sick about. Simply gave a digital nod to my exclusion. My chest went hollow. It wasn't just disappointment. It was a deep, aching void. The silence from Mom. The casual dismissal from Kyle. The thumbs up from Dad, it was all louder than any insult. It was the sound of a door slamming shut. It was the sound of my place in the family being erased. I wasn't just uninvited. I was unwelcome. I was nothing. I closed my phone, the screen going dark, mirroring the sudden darkness inside me. They had truly cut me off. And for the first time, a flicker of something new ignited within me. Not sadness, not anger, but a cold, quiet determination. The next day, I went to my favorite coffee shop. It was a small place, usually quiet, a spot where I could read or just think. I ordered my usual latte. As I waited, I heard a familiar voice, loud and clear, coming from the table near the window. My stomach dropped. It was Aunt Karen, Mom's sister. She was talking to the barista, who was just trying to be polite. "Oh, Elena," Aunt Karen said, her voice carrying across the small shop, making sure I could hear every word. She gestured vaguely in my direction. "She gets really touchy about money. You know. Just don't ask her about work or anything. She'll go on and on about how hard she works." She laughed. A fake, brittle sound. The barista just nodded awkwardly, glancing at me. My face burned. Everyone in the shop probably heard her. It wasn't just a private family matter anymore. It was public. It was humiliating. I grabbed my latte and practically ran out of there, my cheeks still burning. The words stung. Touchy about money. That's how they framed it. Not that I was being taken advantage of. Not that I was exhausted from footing their bills. But that I was the problem. I was touchy. The victim was blamed for feeling the pain. That night, my phone rang. It was Kyle. I almost didn't answer. But a strange curiosity, a morbid desire to see how far they'd push, made me pick up. His voice was smooth, confident, as if nothing had happened. "Hey, Elena. What's up?" he began, totally oblivious or pretending to be. "Listen, I just need a quick favor. Can you lend me $500? You know, family helps family. My new business idea is about to take off. Just need a little boost." My blood ran cold. He had the audacity. After the text, after the group chat erasure, after Aunt Karen's public humiliation, he was still asking for money. Family helps family. The words, once a supposed bond, now sounded like a threat, a demand, a curse. In that moment, it clicked. Really clicked. The truth, stark and undeniable, hit me like a physical blow. I wasn't family to them. Not in the way a daughter or a cousin should be. I wasn't someone they loved, cherished, or protected. I was their funding. I was their safety net. I was their ATM. My value was measured in dollars and cents, in how much I could provide, how much I would tolerate. And when I stopped providing, when I showed a glimmer of not chilling, I was cast out. My heart was still thumping, but a new kind of calm began to settle over me. It wasn't resignation. It was resolve. I didn't say anything to Kyle. I just listened to his rambling, his confident assertions, his casual assumption of my perpetual availability. And in my mind, a switch flipped. The anger, the hurt, the embarrassment, it all solidified into something sharp and precise. I hung up, cutting him off mid-sentence. My hand was steady. I opened the Notes app on my phone. The blank screen was inviting. I began to type. Each word was a nail in the coffin of my old self, my old expectations. They built comfort on my silence, Time to unplug it. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't an emotional outburst. It was a statement of fact. A declaration of war not against them. But for myself, my silence had been their greatest asset. My quiet compliance had fueled their entitlement. Now that silence was over. And so was their comfort. The next morning, I called Diana Brooks. Diana was my mentor at the accounting firm where I worked. She was sharp, no nonsense, and incredibly perceptive. I admired her for her unwavering professionalism and her direct approach to problems. She always cut through the noise. I told her I needed to talk about something personal, something financial. She listened carefully, her expression unreadable. I met her at a quiet cafe after work. I brought the binder, the one I had been building for years. It contained every receipt, every bank statement, every Venmo request, every wire transfer, all the evidence of my years of silent sacrifice. 3 years of it, meticulously documented. My hands trembled slightly as I slid the binder across the table to her. Diana took it. She didn't say a word. She just opened it and started flipping through the pages. Her eyes, intelligent and focused, scanned the numbers, the names, the dates. I watched her face, searching for any sign of judgment. But there was none. Just a deepening of her brow as she absorbed the sheer volume of it all. The co-pays for Dad, the endless credit card payments for Mom, Kyle's rent, his phone bills, his business expenses, the family phone plan, the internet, the water, all in my name, all paid by me. Finally, she closed the binder with a soft thud. She looked at me, her gaze steady and unwavering. "Elena," she said, her voice calm but firm. "You're not their daughter. You're their safety net." Her words sliced through the years of self-doubt, the endless guilt trips, the carefully constructed narratives my family had woven. Safety net. That was exactly it. A thing to catch them when they fell, without any thought for the person holding it. "This isn't love," she continued, her voice softer now, but no less resolute. "This is exploitation. And you, Elena, are exhausted." I felt a prickle behind my eyes. She saw it. She saw me. Not just the dependable accountant, but the drained woman underneath. "You need to cut the net," she said. "Cut it clean. Not just for your money, but for your sanity, for your future." I nodded, unable to speak, a lump in my throat. This was the validation I had unknowingly craved for years. Someone else? Someone objective and wise, confirming what I had felt in my gut all along. Together, we made a checklist. Diana, with her sharp financial mind, knew exactly what needed to be done. Revoke all recurring payments to family members. Freeze any shared accounts. Check my credit report for any unauthorized activity. Change passwords to all my online banking and credit accounts. Contact utility companies to remove my name from their family's bills. send formal notifications where necessary. Though we agreed a quiet, decisive cutoff would be more effective for now. Each item on the list felt like a step towards reclaiming myself. Each tick mark was a tiny victory. We sat there for hours, meticulously going through everything. Diana didn't just give advice. She helped me strategize. She empowered me. By nightfall, I was back in my apartment. The silence felt different now. It wasn't the silence of resignation, but the quiet hum of a mission in progress. My laptop was open. My phone was in my hand. One by one, I executed the plan. I logged into every account. I clicked cancel. I changed settings. I froze what needed freezing. Each action was deliberate, precise. A quiet revenge not born of anger, but of a fierce, desperate need for self-preservation. Every draft payment vanished. The financial umbilical cord, stretched thin and frayed, was severed. The relief was immense, a heavy weight lifting from my shoulders. They wouldn't know yet, but soon they would. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt a tremor of hope. A hope for a future where my worth wasn't tied to my wallet, where my love wasn't a bill. I had taken the first steps, and there was no turning back. Thanksgiving Day arrived. The air in my apartment was still and quiet. Outside, a crisp autumn chill had settled over Denver. I could hear the distant sounds of life, a car door slamming, a dog barking. But inside, there was only the soft hum of my refrigerator and the gentle ticking of the clock on the wall. In the past, this day would have been a whirlwind of frantic energy. I'd be at my parents' house by now, peeling potatoes, setting the table, mediating the inevitable squabble between Mom and Aunt Karen about the proper way to roast a turkey. I would have been the one running to the store for the forgotten can of cranberry sauce, the one making sure everyone's glass was full, the one cleaning up spills and managing the chaos, all while a quiet resentment simmered just beneath the surface. Today, there was none of that. I made myself a cup of coffee and sat by the window, watching the leaves drift down from the trees. It felt strange. Part of me, a deeply ingrained, conditioned part, felt a pang of loss, a feeling that I was missing something essential, something I was supposed to be a part of. But another, newer part of me felt a profound sense of peace. The silence wasn't empty. It was calm. It was mine. I spent the morning doing things for myself. I read a book. I listened to a podcast. I tidied up my already clean apartment. I tried not to think about them, about the house filled with the smells of roasting turkey and pumpkin pie, the sound of laughter and the football game on TV. But it was impossible to ignore completely. The ghosts of Thanksgiving's past haunted the edges of my quiet day. Around mid-afternoon, my phone started to buzz. Not with calls, but with notifications. Instagram. I knew what it would be. I knew I shouldn't look, but I couldn't help myself. It was like pressing on a bruise, a painful impulse to confirm the reality of the hurt. The first photo was from Aunt Karen. It was a picture of the dining room table laden with food. The turkey was perfectly golden brown. glistening in the center. There were bowls of mashed potatoes, stuffing, green bean casserole, sweet potatoes with marshmallows melted on top. Everything looked perfect, like a picture from a magazine. The caption read, "So much to be thankful for. A perfect day with the perfect family." My thumb hovered over the image. The perfect family. A family that had erased me. I zoomed in. I saw the familiar plates, the ones I had bought for them last Christmas. I saw the cloth napkins I had ironed for them the year before. My contributions were there, but I was not. It felt like they had taken parts of me and set them on the table while the rest of me was locked outside. Then came the next photo, posted by Kyle. It was a group selfie. Mom, Dad, Aunt Karen, Kyle all squeezed into the frame, grinning widely. Their faces were flushed with warmth and food and wine. They looked happy, genuinely happy. They were holding up their glasses in a toast. The caption was simple: "Best dinner ever." Best dinner ever. The words were a direct hit. It wasn't just a statement. It was a comparison. It was a message. This dinner, the one without me, was the best one they'd ever had. The implication was clear. I had been the problem. My presence, my touchiness about money, my quiet anxieties, that's what had been holding them back from true happiness. I kept scrolling. It was a flood. A picture of Dad carving the turkey. A proud smile on his face. A video of Mom and Aunt Karen laughing hysterically in the kitchen, their arms around each other. A picture of Kyle's plate piled high with food with the caption, "Finally, a relaxing meal." Each photo, each caption, was a small, sharp cut. I felt the familiar hollowness in my chest, the cold ache of being unwanted. I could almost hear their voices. "It's so much calmer without Elena here," Mom would say. "She's just so intense." And they would all nod in agreement, passing the gravy, passing the judgment, cementing the narrative that I was the difficult one. I closed the app. My coffee was cold. The quiet of my apartment suddenly felt heavy, suffocating. The peace I had felt in the morning was gone, replaced by a familiar, dreary sadness. This was what they did. They made me feel like I was nothing. They had always done it. But now they were doing it publicly, broadcasting it for anyone to see. I stood up and walked to the kitchen, my movements stiff. I opened the fridge and stared blankly at the contents. I wasn't hungry. The images of their feast had stolen my appetite. I thought about past Thanksgivings. I remembered the year Dad's blood pressure was high. And I spent the whole day worrying, trying to get him to eat less salt, while Mom told me to stop nagging. I remembered the year Kyle forgot his wallet, and I ended up paying for the extra groceries he'd insisted they needed. I remembered every tense conversation, every passive-aggressive comment, every moment I had felt small and unappreciated. The truth was, I hadn't been happy at those dinners. I had been performing a role, the dependable daughter, the responsible one, the one who smoothed things over and paid the bills. The perfect family in those Instagram photos was a fantasy, a carefully curated image. And I had been one of the props used to create it. By removing me, they had simply found a new way to stage their play. Later that evening, long after the sun had set, my phone lit up with a text message. It was from Mom. My heart gave a painful thud. A stupid, hopeful leap. For a second, I thought maybe she was reaching out. Maybe after the food and the wine, she felt a moment of regret. Maybe she missed me. I opened the message. The words on the screen were cold and hard. Since you won't apologize, skip Christmas. 2. I read it once, then twice. Apologize. She expected me to apologize. For what? For not letting them use me anymore? For finally standing up for myself? The audacity of it was breathtaking. It was a masterclass in manipulation, in gaslighting. In her mind, I was the one who had done something wrong. I was the one who needed to beg for forgiveness to be allowed back into their perfect, happy family. In the past, a message like that would have broken me. I would have cried. I would have agonized over it. I would have probably drafted a long, pleading apology, taking the blame for everything just to be let back in. But something inside me had changed. I looked at the words on the screen and I felt nothing. The hurt was gone, replaced by a cold, clear certainty. This wasn't love. This wasn't family. This was a transaction. And they were angry that their account had been closed. My finger moved over the screen. I didn't type a reply. I didn't engage. I just held my thumb down on the message. A small menu popped up. I pressed delete. The message disappeared. It was a small act, but it felt monumental. I was refusing to accept their narrative. I was refusing to play their game. I went to my kitchen cabinet and took out a wine glass. I poured myself a glass of red wine. Then I walked over to my desk and picked up a piece of mail that had come a few days ago. It was my electricity bill. I looked at the name and address at the top. Elena Vance. My name. My address. I looked at the amount due. It was my responsibility. Only mine. I took a sip of wine. It tasted rich and smooth. The silence of my apartment returned. But this time it was different. It wasn't lonely. It was sovereign. It was the calm of a life that finally, truly belonged only to me. There were no hidden costs. No emotional debts. No one else's burdens to carry. Just me. My quiet apartment. And a power bill that was blessedly, beautifully my own. And in that moment, I felt more thankful than I ever had at their loud, crowded, expensive table. 2 days passed in complete silence. No angry calls. No pleading texts. No sarcastic emails. It was a cold, unnerving quiet. I knew it was the calm before the storm. They were likely scrambling, confused, trying to figure out why the automatic payments they had long taken for granted had suddenly stopped. I spent those 2 days in a state of tense preparedness. I didn't feel scared. I felt ready. The woman who would have crumbled under their disapproval was gone. In her place was someone who had a binder full of facts and a spine made of steel. The call came on Saturday morning. It was my mother. I answered on the second ring. My voice steady. "Hello, Margaret." "What did you do?" Her voice was high-pitched, frantic. There was no greeting, no preamble, just a raw, unfiltered accusation. The bank called. The mortgage payment bounced. It's never, ever bounced before. "What did you do?" I took a slow, deliberate breath. "I didn't do anything to the mortgage. Mom, I just stopped paying for things that weren't mine." "What are you talking about?" she shrieked. "The internet is off. My credit card was declined at the grocery store. This is a nightmare. Elena, you have to fix this." "There's nothing for me to fix," I said, my voice as calm as a frozen lake. "I can come over and explain everything if you'd like." There was a pause. I could hear her ragged breathing on the other end of the line. "You get over here right now." She finally snarled and hung up. I didn't rush. I took a shower. I got dressed in a simple pair of dark jeans and a plain black sweater. I didn't want to look like a victim or a fighter. I wanted to look like what I was, an accountant closing a very personal, very toxic account. I picked up the binder from my desk. It felt heavy in my hands, heavy with the weight of years of resentment and one-sided transactions. It was my ledger of pain, and it was time for an audit. When I arrived, the house was in a state of quiet chaos. The television was off, which was unusual. The silence was thick with tension. Mom was pacing back and forth in the living room, her face pale and pinched. Dad was sitting in his armchair, staring at the blank TV screen, his expression grim. He wouldn't look at me when I walked in. "Well," Mom demanded, stopping her pacing to stand in front of me, her arms crossed. "What is this? Some kind of sick joke?" I didn't answer her directly. I walked to the coffee table and placed the binder down. The thud it made was loud in the quiet room. I sat on the sofa opposite my father and opened it. The neat tabs were facing them. Mortgage help. Credit cards. Kyle. Utilities. Medical. "This isn't a joke," I said softly. "This is a record. I've kept it for the last 3 years." I turned to the first tab labeled Utilities. "This is the internet and cable bill for this house. It's been in my name and on my autopay since I moved out. That's $180 a month. Over 3 years. That's $6,480. My mother's mouth opened, then closed. I flipped to the next section. "These are your credit card statements." "Mom, I've highlighted all the payments I made directly to the bank on your behalf. The total is just over $11,000 for things like vacations, clothes, and restaurant dinners." I looked at my dad. "Dad, this section is for your medical copays and prescription costs that weren't fully covered by insurance. I was happy to help, but it needs to be acknowledged. That total is $4,200. I kept going, my voice even and dispassionate. I was simply stating facts. Reading from the ledger. With every page I turned, the anger in my mother's face began to morph into a stunned, disbelieving silence. My father finally looked at me, his eyes wide with a dawning, horrified understanding. Just as I was about to open the final, most damning section, the front door burst open. It was Kyle. He sauntered in with a smug grin on his face, holding his phone. "Hey everyone. What's all this?" he said, his eyes landing on me. "A family meeting? Did Elena finally come to her senses and bring us a check?" He laughed, but the sound died in his throat when he saw the looks on his aunt and uncle's faces. I didn't even flinch. I just turned the page to the tab that read Kyle. It was the thickest section in the binder. "Actually, Kyle, I'm glad you're here," I said, my voice still quiet. I turned the binder around so he could see. The pages were filled with printouts of his Venmo requests to me, each one highlighted in bright yellow. "Let's see," I said, tapping the first one. $500 for urgent business supplies on January 12th. Another $300 for a networking lunch in February. Oh, and here are the 3 separate times I paid your rent, totaling $4,500 because your investors were about to come through. I read them off one by one. His face went from smug to confused to pale. The color drained from his cheeks as I laid his entire history of dependency bare on the coffee table. "You told me that money was a gift from Mom and Dad," he stammered, looking at my mother. "I never said that," Margaret whispered, her eyes fixed on the pages. Kyle looked back at me, his eyes flashing with anger. "You kept receipts? What is wrong with you? We're family." I finally looked up from the binder and met his gaze. My own eyes were clear and steady. I let the silence hang in the air for a moment before I delivered the final verdict. "I'm not your ATM," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. But it cut through the room like a shard of glass. "I'm not your safety net. I'm not a line item in your budget." I slowly closed the binder and pushed it to the center of the table. "I'm just done." I stood up. My legs felt strong. My heart was steady. I didn't wait for them to respond. I didn't wait for the tears or the anger or the excuses. I had said what I needed to say. I had shown them the truth. What they did with it was no longer my problem. I turned around, walked out the front door, and didn't look back. The cold November air hit my face as I walked to my car. It felt clean, cleansing. I expected to be shaking. I expected to feel a wave of guilt or regret. But I felt nothing but a profound, steady, calm. My heart, which had been racing in anticipation, was now beating with a slow, even rhythm. It was the feeling of a long, painful surgery finally being over. The diseased part had been cut out. The healing could now begin. I drove home, the windows down, letting the crisp air whip through the car. I didn't turn on the radio. I just wanted the silence. When I got back to my apartment, I made myself a cup of tea and sat on my sofa. My home felt like a sanctuary, a fortress of solitude that no one else's chaos could penetrate. The first few days were defined by a profound lack of communication. My phone, which had once been a constant source of stress with its endless stream of requests and demands, was silent. I would pick it up and look at the screen, expecting to see a barrage of angry texts from my mother or manipulative pleas from Kyle. But there was nothing. It was as if by presenting them with the hard, undeniable facts, I had short-circuited their entire system. They didn't know how to argue with a spreadsheet. The main family group chat, the one that was usually buzzing with pointless chatter, went completely dead. No one posted anything. No recipes. No jokes. No updates. It was a digital ghost town. A week after the confrontation, I quietly removed myself from the group. No one added me back. I stayed off Instagram for a while, but curiosity eventually got the better of me. I looked up Kyle's profile. His feed, once a curated gallery of his supposed success, new gadgets, expensive dinners, nights out with friends, had come to a complete standstill. His last post was from 3 days before the binder incident. After that, nothing. The funding had been cut, and so had the performance of a life he wasn't actually living. Seeing it didn't bring me joy. It didn't make me feel powerful. It just made me feel a quiet, detached sadness. He was a product of a system my silence had helped enable. I spent my time focusing on myself. I threw myself into my work. I reconnected with friends I had neglected because I was always too drained by my family. I started hiking on the weekends, exploring the trails around Denver, breathing in the mountain air, and feeling my own strength, both physical and emotional. I was rebuilding my savings account, and every dollar that stayed there felt like a small victory, a brick in the foundation of my new independent life. I sometimes wondered what was happening in that house. Were they figuring it out? Were they angry? Were they talking about me? I'm sure they were. But the difference was, I could no longer hear their voices in my head. Their opinions, which had once held so much power over me, were now just faint echoes from a distant shore. I was learning to listen to my own voice instead. About 2 weeks after the confrontation, a single text message appeared on my phone. It was from Margaret. My stomach tightened for a brief second, a reflex from years of conditioning. Before I calmed myself, I opened it. The message was short. Didn't realize how much you did. We'll figure it out. I read it several times. Hello. I'm delighted to assist you with our voice services. Choose a voice that resonates with you, and let's begin our creative audio journey together. She would have replied immediately, offering to help them figure it out, eager for any scrap of recognition. But I wasn't the old Elena. I looked at the message, at the bubble of text on my screen. I knew that any reply, no matter how carefully worded, would be an invitation to renegotiate the boundary I had fought so hard to draw. A reply would say, "The door is still open. My silence had to be the final word. My silence was the boundary. I put my phone down without replying. I didn't delete the message. I just let it sit there, unanswered. It was a reminder. A reminder that I had done the right thing, and that the discomfort they were now feeling was the necessary price of their education. Some lessons are not learned through conversation. Some lessons cost discomfort. And this was a lesson they had to learn on their own. The silence stretched on. Weeks turned into a month, then 2. The holidays passed in a quiet blur. I spent Christmas with a friend's family who welcomed me with open arms and no expectations. It was a strange and wonderful feeling to simply be a guest, to enjoy a meal without feeling like I was an employee or a sponsor. For the first time, I understood what it felt like to be wanted, not needed. One cold afternoon in late January, my phone rang. The caller ID showed my father's name. My breath caught in my throat. It was the first time he had tried to call me directly since the confrontation. I hesitated for a moment, then answered. "Hello? Elena," he said. His voice was quiet, a little rough. I just wanted to call. "Hi, Dad," I said, my own voice softer than I expected. There was a long pause. I could hear him take a deep breath. "We set up our own payments," he said, the words coming out in a rush, "for the internet and the utilities. Margaret is working through a budget. It's been hard, but we're managing." "Okay," I said simply. I didn't know what else to say. "I looked through that binder you left," he continued, his voice cracking slightly. I never knew the extent of it. I just let Margaret handle everything. I let you handle everything. That was wrong." He paused again. "I'm sorry, Elena. I'm sorry for taking advantage of you." Tears prickled my eyes. It was the apology I never thought I would hear. It was simple, direct, and it came from the person I had always felt was just a silent accomplice. It wasn't a magic wand that erased years of neglect, but it was a start. It was an acknowledgement, a single solid brick of honesty to build upon. "Thank you, Dad," I whispered. "That means a lot." We talked for a few more minutes about small things. The weather, his work, my work. It was awkward and stilted, but it was real. It was the first honest conversation we'd had in years. A week later, I got a text from my mother. It was different from her last one. There was no bitterness, no demand, just a few simple words. "I'm making pasta on Sunday. Would you like to come over for dinner?" I stared at the message for a long time. My first instinct was to say no, to protect the peace I had fought so hard for. I was afraid of walking back into that house, afraid that it would be a trap, that the old dynamics would snap back into place the moment I stepped through the door. But my father's apology had changed something. It had opened a small window of possibility. I texted back a simple reply. What time? When I walked into their house that Sunday, it felt different. The air was less tense. The television was on, but the volume was low. My mom was in the kitchen stirring a pot of sauce. She smiled at me when I came in. It was a small, cautious smile, not her old performative one. "Hi, sweetie," she said. "Glad you could make it." Dinner was quiet. It wasn't the thick, angry silence of before, but a softer, more contemplative quiet. We ate the pasta. We talked about my new hiking hobby. My mom told a story about a funny customer at her part-time job. Kyle wasn't there. No one mentioned the binder. No one mentioned money. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. For the casual request. The passive-aggressive comment. The hint of guilt. But it never came. They just ate dinner with me. As I sat there, at the same table where I had once felt so much pressure and resentment, I realized what was different. It was me. I was different. I wasn't sitting there as their benefactor, bracing for the next financial hit. I was there as their daughter. And because I felt no obligation, I was, for the first time in my adult life, able to simply feel peace. It was fragile. It was new. But it was there. I had come not because I had to, but because I had chosen to. And that made all the difference. Months later, the binder sits on a shelf in my living room. It's nestled between a novel and a potted plant. I don't look at it often, but I know it's there. It's not a reminder of a painful past anymore. It's a trophy. A trophy of self-respect. It's the physical proof of the day I decided my own well-being was worth more than their comfort. It's a symbol of the hardest, most important boundary I ever built. The following November, as the leaves turned to gold and orange outside my apartment window, I found myself looking forward to Thanksgiving. I bought a small turkey breast, a box of stuffing, and a can of cranberries. I decorated my small dining table with autumn-colored candles and a festive tablecloth. On Thanksgiving Day, I cooked for myself. I played music I loved. I poured myself a glass of good wine. I ate my meal slowly, savoring every bite in the warm, peaceful quiet of my own home. I was alone, but I was not lonely. The silence was a comfortable blanket, not an empty void. My relationship with my parents is a work in progress. It's not the way it was. And for that, I am grateful. It's simpler now. We see each other for dinner every few weeks. We talk on the phone. The conversations are about our lives, not about our needs. The endless one-way river of financial support has dried up. And what's left is something more honest, if a little more barren. We are learning to relate to each other as people, not as resources and dependents. It is a slow, awkward process, but it is real. I used to think love meant paying everyone's bills. I thought it meant saying yes when I wanted to say no, absorbing everyone else's stress, and quietly carrying the weight of their choices. I thought love was a form of silent sacrifice. But as I sit here in my own home, A place built on my own hard work and protected by my own boundaries. I know the truth. Love doesn't have a price tag. It doesn't require a receipt. Turns out, love's cheaper when it's honest. If this story touched you, please subscribe to the channel and share the video to help me grow better.